Well, Ralph, welcome to the podcast series. Gliding through transformation, I think is quite apt given your interest and your background, of course. I'm sure we're going to dive further into. But yeah, Annapurna, we're very passionate about giving a platform for individuals in our community to talk about some challenges, to help companies and individuals to learn through trial and error, and other people's mistakes, if you like, right? Yeah, what better person to get on than someone like yourself with your illustrious background and yeah, some of the landscapes that you've managed to navigate in the digital transformation world. If you could, Ralph, give us a bit of a background on you and hopefully help us link the tagline here, gliding into transformation.
I'd love to. So thanks for the warm welcome, Charlie. Um, a bit about me. I'm in in my middle ages, you could say. I have two kids.
Right.
I'm married. The kids are almost grown up, if kids ever grow up. And I am a senior executive and dealing a lot with transformation, as you already pointed.
Mhm.
Um, At the end of the day, I have a lot of experience in large scale transformation for big corporations. However, we can derive um, a lot of patterns, a lot of structure from these also for smaller attempts of transformation, be it be smaller in terms of scope or be it be smaller in terms of length of such a transformation, yeah, or if both go together. You mentioned gliding through transformation. Now you see my background picture, I hope.
Yes,
And
yes.
for everyone who wonders what the hell are these white things there on that background, these are gliders. So airplanes with fly without an engine. Now we don't need to explain all of the details how the hell an airplane can fly without an engine. But the important point and the connection, the relation to transformation is if you're flying a glider, then obviously flying needs height. If you're on the ground, you're not flying.
No.
And in order to gain that height, if you don't have an engine, you need something else. So you need nature.
Mhm.
And nature is to a certain extent unpredictable. What I want to say is one analogy between transformation and gliding is that actually you know what you want to do. In a transformation, you have a starting situation and you have a desired situation. You want to change something. And if people are asked, usually they are able to describe verbally what they want to change. Yeah. Beside that, this often is imprecise, that there has not been enough thinking about what do I really want to change, what are the underlying principles, and so on.
Mhm.
We can write down. Yeah, people know what they want to change, but they are influenced by the circumstances, by the environment they are living in. If a change cannot be conducted immediately, but takes time, then the environment the change happens in changes.
Mhm. Mhm.
That's the same then with gliding. You take off, you want to fly to a certain point and hopefully return to your airfield. You have looked into the weather forecast, so you know what you want to do, you know what's your environment. Now you start. And along the way, unfortunately, the situation changes. The forecast does not kick in as it was forecasted, or it's a bit later or a bit earlier, or the order of magnitude is different, and so on and so forth. Now, in a transformation, most probably you are unhappy if circumstances develop in a way which you did not predict or which are negative for you, but you can stop and you can think of it and you can react. You have plenty of time. When you're flying a glider, there are situations where you don't have. you're better off if you are kind of constantly recalibrating. Now, if you think of that, one would say, oh, what a stressful environment then. Constantly recalibrating. Why are you doing that for leisure? Yeah, it must be horrible because a lot of stress, thinking, observation all the time. It's not stressful. It's teaching you a lot. And
Yeah.
it's teaching you a lot for transformation as well. You need to have or develop your skills in a transformation to constantly observe what you are doing, what is the interaction to your environment, what is
Mm.
the feedback from your environment, how does your environment change? How does that affect you? Are you changing anything because of that by your will, or simply you're changing something without even really recognizing it?
Mhm.
Um, and uh, and you need to learn to have that information as known information. Yeah? You need to accept that you have known unknowns, and you need to deal with it and to recalibrate actually all the time. And the good information for all the people doing transformation programs or undergoing transformation is that at this transformation, you can hold for a second and think. In gliding, sometimes you can't, you need to act immediately. But that is what it makes it so special.
I can relate to this too, Ralph. You and I, we found some quite common ground, right? Like I'm similar like you, except I do this from land. I'm madly obsessed with carp fishing, right? I compete at British level, and I've done it for as long as I can remember. And yeah, we found some good commonalities around this, didn't we? With taking into different factors, like within fishing, it's very dependent around weather conditions, time of year, moon phases, all sorts of factors that come into play, right? And yeah, the more sort of longer I'm in the industry, I find some common patterns between people where their personal interests are maybe equally around as much around problem solving as their professional life. To lead it away from this slightly, Ralph, otherwise I think you and I might be here forever talking about our hobbies. Um, what do you see the biggest challenges at the moment the businesses face? Maybe not necessarily even just in Germany or the telecoms industry that you're very prolific within. Like, what are the biggest challenges today with transformation?
Now, again, analogy, but let's stick to the question as such. We do have less stability, at least less felt stability, yeah, because for sure we will receive comments who say, why are you talking about there's a lot of stability in XYZ?
Yep.
But the felt stability is decreasing.
Mm.
I don't want to talk about the big crisis which we see in the world like lots of people do. I'd rather put the focus on, if we compare business to business 60 years ago, then 60 years ago you had way better predictability and the cycles of change have been slower.
Hmm.
Now that means that if you have a goal to go from A to B, that you have more time to conduct that change, to conduct that task,
Hmm.
without the environment dramatically changing. Now, today, we have more and more influence factors to the business. We have a lot more transparency on a whole lot of things, which we didn't have 60 years ago, we even didn't have 20 years ago. We have a lot of more desire of people, different type of business, the interactions and connections of different arms of business. And I could go on with those lists.
Mhm.
So no matter from which angle we look at it, there are more influence factors, and the cadence of change is higher. It's change goes faster and quicker. Now, more factors and higher speed of change means more unpredictability.
Mhm.
And this is an analogy which, if I look to business, might stress a lot of people,
Mhm.
because I think there are it's human nature that sometime you only want to sit and enjoy yourself. You
Mhm.
don't want to be bothered by changes and by environment changes and by you have to react to it, adopt it, and so on and so forth. But it is the nature of the business world we are living in today. And if if we are able to find a way to cope with those changes, to constantly observe, adopt, recalibrate, then we will not feel it as a burden anymore.
Mhm.
And by and large, I think this is the highest um, challenge, the biggest challenge which we see in today's business. Now, we can narrow that down for sure to different industries and so on,
Mhm.
and then we will see that not everything is the same. But by and large, I would say that's the biggest challenge.
And I mean, it's commonly known, right? A large amount of digital transformation journeys, they fail, and these projects fall down, right, Ralph?
Yes.
And I see so much. I mean, I've been involved in the IT recruitment industry for nearly 15 years. I've worked with companies all over the world, witnessed secondhand different challenges and different problems. One common factor I observe from the outside is organizations are very invested in the technology change, but evolving the people and the culture, this is a big problem, right?
Yes. And again, it fits into the picture I'm painting, I
Mm-hmm.
guess. If you're running a change, you need to be quite honest with yourself. What type of change are you running and what is your goal? If you're starting an IT project to replace one of your systems, let's say it's an important one, uh, maintaining your customer information and your customer interaction. If everything else stays the very same, then you should set up a project to create the new system and to migrate the data from the old to the new. And that's pretty much an IT task.
Mm-hmm.
But can that situation exist in today's world? If we believe in what I said before, the answer is no. And because you have quite some environmental environments in that scenario, you have business processes, for example.
Mm-hmm.
And as these business processes have a lot of influence factors, and these are changing rapidly, most probably your business processes do not stay the same. Maybe if you take an airliner view, an order to cash process stays the same. Customer orders something, and at a certain point in time, you want to have cash for it. Now, fine, on that flight level, it seems to be the same. But if you're going down a few levels, all of a sudden it is not, because customer all of a sudden is not going into a shop, he's going onto the internet. There are hundreds of channels he can purchase it on. There are influence factors from it. Now, this is changing my business process. This is changing my business desire. Maybe the outcome has to be something else. So, an easy conclusion could be there is no IT transformation. There also is no business transformation,
Okay.
or let's say finance structure transformation. It doesn't work. If you're setting up something like that, then it's an isolated project and it needs stable environment around it. If you
Mm-hmm.
can't provide that stable environment, it is a transformation. It's manifold. And it's a good idea to give it a thought. Which main influence factors do I have? Which do I need to include into my transformation so that I have control about it? Control in the, at least in the way of I'm constantly observing how it evolves and I'm constantly calibrating my doing to it. So
Do you,
that's one main factor which makes big transformations either fail or succeed.
do you find, Ralph, that the constant calibration and ability at this point to assess what's going on, do you feel in the industry there's a lack of this?
Yes. So if we stick to that topic, but there are other main influence factors or main factors for transformations to fail or to succeed.
Mhm.
But if we stick to that, quite often I see that transformations do not define their target state they want to go to precisely and in the necessary depth.
Mhm. Whose fault is this, though?
Oh, the fault of the driver of the transformation. Now, this is another topic which we need to discuss about who the hell is the driver of the
Mhm.
transformation. So if we're looking blunt at it, you could say the program director.
Mhm.
It's his fault. He didn't take a pencil and write down exactly what the goal of the transformation is so that everyone else working towards it can
Mhm.
strive for it. But that's only one person. And
Mhm.
what we transform is usually a corporation.
Yeah.
Now, if we transform a corporation, who needs to define what the target state is? Now, obviously, the corporation.
Mhm.
The corporation is led usually by a board, a director, or by the top executives of the company. Now, if we think of that, it's the fault of the top executives of the company. Because quite often you have the business is running, there are operational tasks, everyone is looking to optimize that operational tasks in the existing processes, structure, and so on. So you're optimizing the existing constantly. Now you decide, okay, we need to do for that or that reason a transformation. You define roughly the scope of the transformation and you hang it around the neck of one person, which you
Mhm.
mandate to do that. And then the expectation is, okay, that person with his team does it. And the rest goes on optimizing the existing.
Mhm.
That's a big mistake to do that. So now we already found two and we can connect them. You
Mhm.
need to, if we're talking about big, maybe even international acting organizations with complex processes and structures, you need to define your target business operating model. And you need to write that down. You don't need to do that scientific and spend years for it, then it will be eaten by the change already before you completed the writing. But you need to do it down to the necessary depth, and then you need to recalibrate it, either constantly, if that's possible, or in a certain cadence, so that you're not running after the wrong goal. And at the same time, all of the entities who are part of the transformation or touched by the transformation need to work constantly with the transformation. There is no target business operating model and then fire and forget.
Mhm.
It's a constant strive for it. And that's the job of the top executives to set the framework that it can happen, and the job of the corporation to follow it.
Thanks for listening to part one of this conversation with Ralph, where we've delved into the journey of digital transformation. Make sure you're subscribed to catch part 2, where we discuss some of the evolving concepts across the technology landscape.